Hey everybody, welcome to the last IT podcast in the world. I'm David Wheat from Aussie CEO Consulting. He's Derek Johnson from Texas. He of the Flying Squirrels hat again. I can't remember the team. It's
Richmond.
Okay, Richmond. Yep. And we're recording on a Friday, so I'm wearing my read-only Friday Colorado license plate hat because for reasons that would take too long to explain, you should not make a major change to your systems on Friday.
As we all saw recently.
With CrowdStrike. We're not going to talk about CrowdStrike, but they did that on a Friday. And so they were cursed, is what happened to them. They were cursed. But hey, let's jump right into it, Derek. And let's talk about some return to office news. You know, this our favorite topic, the constant battle between the remote workers and the CEOs and the execs that say back to the office. And there's been a lot of news about 5 days in the office. Who is it? Is it Amazon saying?
Amazon, yeah.
Amazon saying starting in January, 5 days back in the office. It's happening, people. Yep. We'll see. So this is related. Here's a story related about that. But here's the warning. Here's my warning. Don't go back 5 days in the office, people, because they're not going to stop at the 5 days. They want more. They want more than 5 days. That's just to trick you into coming back in. But once they have 5 days.
Just as hybrid in 2 days was 2 to 3 to 3 to 3 to 4 to 4
to 5. You think, well, David, they can't ask for more than 5 days of me. Really? Let's check on the headlines. Here's one. Here's a guy that wants you not only in the office 5 days a week, but here's the headline. Ready? Mining boss opposes staff leaving the office for coffee. So it gets better. This guy is, I got to get this guy from Perth, Australia. So I'll just read some of the key points. Workers who leave the head office to buy a cup of coffee are costing an Australian mining firm too much money, according to the boss. Why is the boss buying the coffees? I don't think so. Let's keep going. Managing Director of Mineral Resources, Chris Ellison. Hey, at Chris Ellison, welcome to come on the pod. We cover Australia. We've had English guests before. We can go to Australia and have them come on. Chris Ellison said during a financial results presentation on Wednesday, he wants to, quote, hold staff captive all day long.
Quoted.
This is his actual quote. And wait, here's another quote. I don't want them to leave the building, he said. I think we're a borderline breaking a law here. I think this might be on the verge of kidnapping.
Given the mining industry and anti-employee reputation here.
And then it describes how they have a lot of nice amenities in the office, and he doesn't understand why anyone leaves. And it says, so he talks about, and they have, of course, this is going to really surprise you. They have a strict no work from home policy. Shocking. Really, from a guy who would say that he wants to tie you, he wants to duct tape you to your chair and duct tape your hands to your keyboard.
Time your bathroom breaks. And
maybe a gentle whip every once in a while for encouragement.
Yeah. Everyone
anyway,
looks better properly motivated.
Yeah, so he talks about how they have some nice amenities in the building, like even daycare. Good for them. But Here's what he says. Why have I provided all these things? Why have I? So there's always the why have I provided all these things to them? Quote, again, a quote, because when I get them first thing in the morning, I want to hold them captive all day long. I don't want them to leave the building.
Eesh.
Any impressions of this guy? Like if you knew this before the interview, you would say I don't know about this job.
I mean, it is a little bit of a throwback to it's on my mind because of recent trip, but Thunder Mountain Disney World mining themed, right? And all the signs about how you have to buy all your stuff from the mine and you get your room board from the mine. And I don't know, is that like an industry thing that we're
like a company town?
Company town. They actually
would pay you in something called scrip, which is company money.
Company money that you can only use at the company store, and your actual take-home pay is pretty negligible.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, so the 5 days a week, people, is just so they can lock the doors and never let you go home again. Let's keep going. He says, quote, I don't want them walking down the road for a cup of coffee. We kind of figured out a few years ago how much that costs.
So I'm assuming he means time that people are out, but you're not buying the coffee when they're out, so you're losing
So
their
it's obviously time.
yeah.
So if you walk to a really good coffee shop that's like say 5 to 7 minutes away,
Hmm.
so it's 15 minutes total. You buy the coffee. You probably go with your
Yeah.
work mate. Oh, I said mate
You're
like they do in Australia. Your
yeah.
work mate.
Look at you.
Yeah, being all Australian and stuff. Anyway, like so let's go back to managers. Like if you hung out at the coffee shop for an hour, that wouldn't be okay if it's not your
Right.
lunch hour.
Right.
But what he's really saying is no breaks. If you're a
Right.
salaried employee, you'll have no breaks. I've got a story about that in a minute from the
Because
past.
yeah, I mean, like so the cost difference to go downstairs to your company provided coffee shop
Yeah.
still it's
He
not zero.
Yeah. So by the way, I missed our follow up question for the line. We kind of figured out a few years ago how much that costs. I'd like. Can you share the spreadsheet with me? Could
Right.
I see? Could I see the work of how
And
much
how
this
does
costs?
that balance with like all those amenities they're providing to keep you captive aren't free unless hopefully they're not
Yeah.
charging for these.
Yeah. So he doesn't want people to take breaks. But he's saying
Yeah.
it's such an awful toxic way, like captive in the building. I don't want them to ever leave. Wow. Okay. And then he pivots a little bit and he says he thinks the rest of his industry, which is mining, which is big in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
should quote get on board with this thinking about working in the office rather than home. And here's a quote we're going to just kind of finish on. But he says, quote, the industry cannot afford it. He means working from home. We can't have people working 3 days a week and picking up 5 days a week of pay. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
agree with
Like
that
you can't.
statement.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You should not have to pay
yeah,
people who are working 3 days.
right.
But did you work from home all week, Derek?
I
Curious.
did.
Just three
Well,
days, 2 days.
4 days, but I actually took a vacation day on one of them.
Fair.
So they paid me for four.
I
I
guess
worked
what you don't
four.
realize, sucker, is that you could have just worked like 2 or 3 days, according to this
Right.
guy.
And no one would have known. Like no
No,
one
they
would
would have
have.
never known.
There's no
You're,
management ability to tell if you're doing anything or not.
yeah, and by the way, he also says he can't afford it. And I was like, can you show me that spreadsheet too? Like
Right.
what it costs you to have.
And
By the
I
way, I
mean,
worked I worked from home all 5 days this week, 5 days, and the pay that I earned was equivalent to 5 days.
mhm.
And I was at home the whole time, and I got coffee. I got up and got coffee whenever I wanted.
Mhm.
And so anyway, people
Actually,
spin things.
closer
Yeah,
coffee here. I can get my coffee break in like 2 minutes instead of.
exactly. It's
Um,
exactly right. So
no, it's
anyway,
also weird if you're trying to pull people into the office to make it as I don't know as prison like of an experience as possible. It's as if that's going to sell it, right? Like, I mean, if you can pull it off with your labor market, I guess more power to you. But if you're trying to sort of sell the return to office experience, this is kind of worst case scenario.
fair. I think there's probably some applicants out there that this guy chased away.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that's our take on, like, and let me tell you really quickly an adjacent story. Back in my career, a long time ago, I worked in kind of a big office pit area. There were like 20 desks outside of a big boss's enclosed office.
Hmm.
So 20 cubicles, all in one room, and we all worked for this one guy. And he had a couple of rules. One of them was no laughing.
What?
Yeah. Do you know why? By the way, you just laughed, and that's not
Yeah.
allowed, Derek.
Okay. Sorry.
Do you just follow a boss's thinking? If you're laughing, what's happening?
You're joking around. You're not working.
You
Yes.
couldn't possibly be working. No joke. This guy was the spitting image of Bob Newhart in face and tone, if that helps. A little bit of
That
a,
had to have been difficult then too.
yeah, RIP Bob Newhart this year.
That's right.
Um, his second rule was people had to go to the bathroom at a designated time, 2 days, 2 times a day.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's
only reason
rough.
I tell that story is some bosses think they have so much power that they can literally tell people to not laugh because
Hmm.
they just want people to work. And this
Why don't we
guy in
just Why
Australia
don't we
just
just
wants
work
people to
more?
work. Yeah, exactly. And then finishing up this segment, speaking of JP Morgan in the Wall Street Journal this week, letting people know that they are a company with a heart. They are not as heartless as everyone's making it. They're a little bit offended that everyone's saying they're so heartless. And they have decided to cap the hours of most, not all, the word story said most junior investment bankers. So maybe, I don't know, first 2 years of your career, three. I don't know what junior is,
Yeah,
but
I don't know. Yeah.
for the first 3 years of they're going to cap their hours because they are, sensitive,
Okay.
concerned with workers' needs to 80 hours a week.
Whew.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm capping it.
Wow.
80 hours a week. Not only that, and they wanted to make sure that people were clear that they're not heartless and ruthless. They clarified that we already make sure that they don't have to work from Friday at 6 p.m. till Saturday at noon. That's off time.
Wow.
That is you
So
time.
that's most of that sleeping, but yeah, that's for you.
That 18 hours with 8 hours of sleeping, i.e., 10 hours.
You get
So
10
that's
hours.
literally the quote. We already make sure they don't have to work from Friday at 6 p.m. till noon on Saturday. And
It's
then,
an
as
interesting
if
choice,
things,
by the way, of which hours you're protecting. Like,
right? Yeah.
because
And
nothing
then
is just important on Sunday or Saturday evening.
And then if that's not enough of a perk for those JP Morgan at JP Morgan, happy to come on, happy to talk and debate on like why you should do that. And then they give them a full weekend off every 3 months. So every three
Hmm.
months, you're going to get a Saturday and a Sunday off.
Wow.
Yeah. What great times.
Wow. So you have a counterbalance to the harsh mining guy. You've got JP Morgan here with
Yeah. With,
rainbows and stuffed animals, and
oh,
we're
yeah.
we're
Just like
we're a
think,
different vibe.
just a heart for people, really.
Yeah.
That's who they
Yeah.
are. Anyway, so one time I was working real hard and our boss, this was way back in the day. I was in accounting at the time, by the way, and my boss required us to come in on Saturday for a couple of hours because it looked good to the CEO. And then one day he came up to me and said, "Just take Saturday off." He gave me Saturday off.
Wow.
What a guy!
Wow.
What a what a mensch, as they say.
Yeah.
And a mensch means a good person. So anyway, all right, that wraps up the return to office wars. Return to office and then be held captive and then work 80 hours a week. And then maybe if you're lucky, you get Saturdays off. Good
Yeah.
luck, everybody. I'm
Have
not going to
fun.
do it. I'm going to work from home. All right. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back with the big idea, the main segment. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Time for the segment called The Big Idea. The Big Idea. The Big Idea. Serious topic, but we'll still have fun. We'll still have fun with The Big Idea.
Better IT, hands in the air cause we like IT, that's great. I'm not a famous rapper, but I can help you with technology. I can show you
Hey,
how
welcome
to
back,
software.
everybody,
I
to
can
the
show
last
you how to
IT
be secure.
podcast
I
in
can
the world and
acquire
the
your
Big
broken
Idea
stuff
segment.
and then put it back together much better.
Derek, I feel like was it Johnny Appleseed that went through the American West, like just throwing seeds
Yeah.
out and growing apples? I don't know what the version of I am, but I keep going around to people just randomly saying, "Hey, public Wi-Fi is safe. Hey, everybody, excuse me." I get up on like a bus or an airplane. Anytime there's like a
Like,
captive audience,
you
we're
need a
like, "Hey,
hat for that, or a shirt.
oh, I
Just
should get one of you're
public
so
Wi-Fi is
smart.
safe.
Public Wi use continue." And Derek, we talked about it before, but just briefly tell the people why public Wi-Fi is probably safe.
It's 2024. Most websites are running HTTPS. Traffic is encrypted. It's
From your browser
yeah.
through
You've
your
got
computer
you've already
up
got
over the
multiple layers
Wi-Fi
of
router
security.
at the coffee shop. It is all scrambled / encrypted so hard that nobody's going to pick it off.
Yeah.
So, and like you said,
And you're not that interesting.
you're not that interesting. You're probably not doing that much. So, Wall Street Journal article that caught my eye. It was called "How Safe Am I Online?" and other questions readers asked about cybersecurity. I thought, okay, here we go. I have to read this. And I read it, and it had several recommendations, some of which are good, some of which are not that great. But it's like, never use public Wi-Fi. Always use a VPN. So you'll never believe this, Derek, but I looked up the writer's email address, and I wrote him and said, "Hey, I'm an IT professional, and here's why public Wi-Fi is safe. And what you're saying was true 5 to 10 years ago because encryption wasn't a thing, but it's all encrypted, and your passwords can't be seen, and blah, blah, blah." And what I wanted to discuss in a minute is his response. We're going to walk through his scenario, but the way he wrote me back, you can tell a little bit about the email I wrote by the first line of his response. "Hi, David. Thanks for this extensive information." I think, I think that meant your email was really long. So here we go. Here's what he wrote back. And this guy's name is Bart Ziegler. Super great guy. Like the guy wrote me back
Yeah,
from the
like I
Wall
was gonna
Street
say,
Journal. So
no matter
like,
what else, bravo for like
yeah,
engaging and
at Bart Ziegler, I'd love to have you on. Like, and we can just talk about it, and we can laugh about it, and I can say like, "Hey, dude, you're wrong, and here's why," and you can say, "I didn't know that," and then you can tell me something I don't know or I was wrong about. Anyway, so here's what he wrote back, and you and I, we're gonna turn this into a real life scenario. Okay, regarding public Wi-Fi, here's what he says. I do say in the article that many websites now use encryption, so but as you point out, a fair percentage don't. Pause. Do you know what websites don't? It's the dad on your kid's sports team that posts his pictures after every game, and he set up the website 10 years ago, and it's
Yeah.
probably HTTP,
yeah,
and means not encrypted. And you know what you're not doing on that site, Derek? You're not
banking,
right. You're not entering your credit card number. You're
right?
not hopefully entering your password. So that's this kind of dumpy sites that aren't anymore. Anyway,
Yeah.
so here we go. This is fun. So a hacker could see what website a person goes to, and for some people that could be compromised. So let me point out, sometimes if you're called DNS is how it looks like. If you want to go to Amazon.com, a domain name server translates that into an IP address, which is a string of digits, to
You
route
mean
it to the right server.
218 dot blah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, something dot something dot something dot. So that's a domain name server. So yes, sometimes someone might be able to see that you went to Amazon.com. After that, everything's encrypted. Maybe. And by the way, DNS encryption is coming along, but it's true. So he's saying someone could still see. Okay, here we go. Consider this scenario. A high-level executive is in line for a new job. The company that wants to hire him as their CEO asks its headhunting firm to do due diligence on his background, and that firm hires a private investigator. Parentheses. Yes, this is often done. Okay, often, I doubt it, but okay.
Yeah.
So by the way, you're about to go work for a hypothetical company that's going to put a private dick
on you before you.
Does anyone say private dick anymore? Probably not. Private eye, a PI, a Magnum PI, the guys from Psych.
So if it's 100% of C-level positions, it's still not a wide range of people in this scenario, but maybe his readership is more.
Let's keep going. Let's see what happens. This investigator talks to relatives of the executive. Pause. Hi, I'm an investigator, and I'm talking to relatives about the CEO because he's applied for a job. Okay, well, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'd love to tell you everything about him because you knocked on my door. Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And I won't immediately call my brother-in-law and say
hey.
All right, let's keep
are
going.
Are you in trouble or are you running for Congress or what's going on?
So he talks to relatives, one of whom says he believes the man has health issues, but is vague.
Great friend and relative, first of all.
I think we just broke like 5 laws. I think 5 laws were just broken.
Yeah.
Hiring a private investigator to go find out HIPAA information about an employee without their consent. Anyway, let's keep going.
Okay.
Seeking to find out more, the investigator follows the man into a Starbucks, sits 2 tables away, and using a packet sniffer on his laptop, watches where the executive goes online. Wow.
Whoa, we're in deep.
Am I on Slow Horses or some CSI episode?
Right.
Or am I applying for a job? Okay. We're going to talk about what's wrong with that scenario in a minute. First, the executive goes to a site for a pancreatic cancer information group. Next, he visits the Sloan Kettering, very specific, the Sloan Kettering Cancer Surgery Center site. After that, he goes to the Aetna insurance site. Because of this, the executive is asked about his health and admits his illness. Like, hey, you. Hey. And then he's like, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sick. Mm-hmm. He is crossed off the list for the CEO job. Stop.
So I think they're breaking the law there, right? I mean, there's ethically already companies got to be breaking law with this, right? There's no way employment discrimination is allowing this. 2, there is a little bit of an ethical part on the employee's part of like, hey, if you're applying for a C-level job, probably should volunteer important information so they know what your ability to commit is or something like that. But
yeah. So first of all, I would love for this to happen to me. I'd love to apply for a job, have an investigator talk to my relatives,
I
follow
think
me to
you could
Starbucks, get
retire.
my health information, and then not give me the job because I
Yeah.
would be so rich. I would
Yes.
be so rich after that. So please, please, please,
Pro
Bart
tip.
Ziegler, if you can refer me to this real life scenario, I would love for
It's
this to
a
happen.
mining
Except for the
company in Australia.
perfect, yeah. And then he closes with this. This is Bart Ziegler writing now, the writer from Wall Street Journal. This may not be common, but I don't think it can be dismissed as a risk. Fact check false. I'm dismissing it as a risk right now. This is it.
There's also the, like, with a lot of this discussion of security and risk, if you want to just be afraid, there's no counting the cost of some of these security measures, right?
Yeah.
Like the cost versus the risk. Because is there a risk? There's always risk. There's always the stuff that can happen. So what cost or inconvenience are you willing to incur for some pretty narrow risk scenarios that, like you said, probably would just result in you retiring early and being independently wealthy?
Yeah.
But
we tell people in IT, we talk a lot about edge cases. Just define the 15-second, what's an edge case?
So we talk about like happy path versus edge case. And happy path is everything works the way it's supposed to, what you expect to happen. And then you start testing edge cases of, well, what if the user types an emoji in their birthday field, and what happens there? And so things you don't expect, things that are rare, things that are unexpected scenarios.
Something happens once a month, once a quarter. Yeah. It happened once and I remembered it.
Right.
The very obscure use cases.
There's edge cases and there's corner cases. There's really, really obscure. And you have to decide how much money you want to spend to address all of those. And some of them are common enough that they're worth it. And some of them are like, I'm not going there.
Yeah. Great. So this is a corner case inside of a corner case inside of 3 other corner cases. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, it's completely hypothetical. He could have, as a journalist, come up with a thing. So here's why this is the edge, corner case. So seeking to find out more, the investigator follows the man into Starbucks, hits 2 bulbs. That is not how this attack works. Right. Here's how the alleged public Wi-Fi isn't safe attack works. Someone goes to a coffee shop or an airport and that already has a Wi-Fi signal, like Starbucks Wi-Fi, and they set up their laptop. It's all it takes, and a phone maybe, and they broadcast another Wi-Fi that's called like AAA Starbucks. Choose me. Or they might just call it Starbucks Wi-Fi because you can have 2 of the same.
Yeah.
Then they cross their fingers that someone connects to the wrong one. So this is called a man-in-the-middle attack. A man-in-the-middle attack is where someone is between you and your trusted partner, Starbucks Wi-Fi router, and they stick a thing, and now you're routing your traffic not through Starbucks Wi-Fi, but into their machine. So here's the first problem. They have to get to Starbucks ahead of you and be all set up. And fine, maybe the CEO goes to the same, maybe he does all of his cancer research at the same Starbucks every single day at 9 a.m. And so it's super easy. But so he doesn't follow him into a Starbucks. He gets there ahead of him.
There.
And he's got to have his fake SSID up. Then the thing that has to happen is the CEO has to choose the wrong Starbucks Wi-Fi.
Right.
Will he or won't he? I don't know. But it's 50-50. Maybe he's smart enough to not choose the AAAAA Starbucks Wi-Fi because it sorts to the top. By the way, it sorts by signal strength. But anyway, the next thing that has to happen. So then he's got maybe other people also join that and click on it. Maybe there's 10 people in the coffee shop. Now he's got to know whose traffic is whose.
Right.
And I don't know. There's nothing I don't think that comes through and says.
He's got to somehow figure out.
Yeah, maybe 4 people connect. I don't know how hackers do this. By the way, at hacker of any kind, if you'd like to meet me at a coffee shop and we'll live stream it and you show me how wrong I am, I don't think you will be because I believe in encryption and everything I read is saying everyone stop saying this. But anyway, so you have to do this man in the middle. You have to spoof it. You spoof Starbucks. You're not in Starbucks Wi-Fi. You haven't hacked Starbucks Wi-Fi. Now, could North Korea or Russia or Israel hack Starbucks Wi-Fi? Yeah. But that's not the scenario he painted,
Right.
By the way, when a nation state wants you, good luck, But the nation state does not want you or me or anyone else. So anyway, they have to get their head. They have to sit 2 people's away. They have to like get them to, and then all they're going to know is that health information. By the way, did you notice he had to add the family member, clued him off on the health thing?
Right.
Let's say that didn't happen. Let's say he skipped that step and he just
He's
does
just
the
over
Wi-Fi
there.
thing.
He doesn't know what traffic to look for. He's just over there.
He's looking for anything.
Out,
and let's say that the CEO is the only person in the coffee shop. Banana, Yahtzee. He did it. And then let's say he puts in pancreatic cancer and Sloan Kettering and Aetna.
Yeah.
Maybe his mom is sick.
Right.
Maybe he's got an uncle who's sick. Maybe he likes to study health issues as a hobby, like without the family saying he's got health issues. But anyway,
so maybe a celebrity recently got diagnosed with something, right? And he's curious about, who knows what that.
It's so like the people keep coming up with the craziest examples like this that aren't even structured right.
Right.
That would have so many layers of complexity that basically the CIA would have to be after you, right? Basically.
And to your point, at that point, your free VPN you're running off of your laptop isn't going to be enough either.
So everybody, I am Johnny. Public Wi-Fi is safe. Like everything you go to, Amazon, banks, credit cards, anything you would log in with a password, Microsoft, Google, anything you would use a credit card on is HTTPS encrypted, even with a man-in-the-middle attack where you do connect to the wrong Wi-Fi. Everything except possibly what sites you go to. Now, Derek, my life advice, and I think you share it, is don't go to any site that you wouldn't want shouted from the rooftop, right?
Right. I think that's a solid rule.
Yeah. Not from your home, not from your work computer, not from Starbucks. Don't go to trashy, you wouldn't want your family to know about it websites is the best life advice I can give.
Don't even go to things you don't want to see marketing materials for in the future. Like there's,
Yeah. Only because, could maybe someone see that you went to that site.
Right.
Because they got to the Starbucks ahead of you, because you clicked on the wrong SSID, because they could isolate your traffic from the 4 other people that connected to it. Do you see how edgy and corner casey this is?
Yep.
So dear Bart Ziegler at the Wall Street Journal, I really appreciate you. I like the story, except for this part. I like the engagement. I really do. I think your example is silly. And I would just like to say that I can absolutely dismiss it as a risk. It's not real. It's never happened in nature. You couldn't come up with a real case. We can still be friends, but stop saying stuff like this. As I kind of rip off Southwest here. I say you are now free to use public Wi-Fi wherever you want.
Yep.
So anyway.
I guess make sure you choose the right one. Make sure you choose the actual Starbucks Wi-Fi and not, FBI surveillance van Wi-Fi.
Right. .com or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, there are a couple of hygiene things like it never should cost you a credit card to join the Wi-Fi. It should never take your work password to join the Wi-Fi. So there's some basic things to never do in case someone is spoofing a site or something. But anyway, so once again, I've had an interaction with a journalist, Derek, and I appreciated that he wrote me back. He's a busy guy.
Yeah, no, that is very good.
And a journalist can't know everything about everything, and they have sources, and they just kind of keep repeating the same thing that I hear from other people. So he's not even that far off. So that's that. What did you learn today?
No, I learned Australian mining industry might be a tough place to work.
Both underground and above ground.
Yeah. Like it's really a throwback.
Yeah. I learned the same thing because it reminded me of the story of the Do Not Laugh boss, and that things haven't changed. That there are just some people that are making a ton of dough up at the top of it, and they just want you to keep feeding the gerbil machine to keep making them a lot of money. And they're keeping score. When you go get a coffee, they're keeping score. Yep. And when you laugh out loud and your boss hears you, you get a demerit, And
then does the keeping score that go the other way? Like myself, minus 5 minutes watching employee go to get coffee.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe you're wasting your too much time calculating how much coffee trips cost.
Or
All right.
building your own coffee shop in house. So
Yeah, make better
that
coffee.
that wasn't free.
Yeah. All right, cool. Hey, good to see you again. As everybody,
Likewise.
thanks for joining the podcast, everybody. We'll see you next time on the last IT podcast in the world. Write us at podcast@alt-cio.com. Bye, everybody.
Bye.